But no, Beth, your goes crashing down. Determination, the suffering, the ability to... And she's unleashed everything in this attack. See just how much that win means to him. All the marvels. Kayla versus Allison and to the line. Kayla Laguna takes the victory. Hello everybody and welcome back to more CVRcade World Cup action. My name is Jesper Anchor and as always, I'll be your host, your pilot, your whatever else you want to call me as I sit here and bring you through all the action in the CVRcade World Cup. Earlier this morning, we had some brilliant racing in Sony. We saw Sadeo Ikebe of Team Cognition, Thomas Tibling, the new recruit of Team CCC, going up against Alison Kubota, Cognition, Tim Fulford, Timothy Tamont of Team Cycling Hub. It was good racing all around. Homer Thompson was also in there. Now for Zones K and L, primetime television, live here on Mixer, we go again. We're going to have a rematch of one of the recent Zone T races that I reckon by far was one of the most highly competitive races we've seen. It was Casey Shum versus Matti Pikelny there at the top. They fought it out on Country Rally. They fought it out. And now we get to see him go once more with the addition of several other riders joining in the action for this Saturday's K and L. CVRcade, of course, is this physical esports platform where riders hook up their bikes, they ride and train and race indoor, and then thanks to the gamified element such as power-ups, as the wind, they get to have a lot of fun while getting fit. One of the racers that raced this morning, Tim Fulford, is also racing K and parts of L tonight. Tim, outright, you won the zone this morning before any bonus points. Did you take something away from Zone E that you're going to really apply to these two zones tonight, or is every zone different?
Every zone, I think, is different with the way in which you get different protagonists in each race. This race this morning was a little bit more tame than normal because I think there was less of a blob. But it's three tough races after this. There's nothing really short after this one. So you might see some people holding some stuff back in 3 or 2 to unleash it onto Dust Bowl, that was tough earlier. That was tough.
The only race you didn't win earlier to do the full 4-race win was Aquavello, which is the race coming up now. What are you going to try and do differently this time around to get the full 30 points?
If I'm honest, Jesper, I have no idea. Sometimes I find this one's a bit of a lottery. You've got to get a bit of luck if you're going to launch a comeback kid, and then that manic sprint to the line. You've just got to cadence all the way up to like 120, spin out the gear, and hope your name comes up on top. So just try something new, try something different. I don't know. We'll see what we can do.
You're without Timothy, you're without Quentin, you're without Nils and the rest of the squad. How much is that going to mean to you and the chances of Team Cycling Hub?
Well, I don't know, but it'll be Lone Ranger, but we'll see what we can do. I've still got to put my shoes on and there's 55 seconds to go, so it should be fun.
I'll let you go. It's all right. Thanks, Tim. We'll make sure you make the start line here. Also broadcasting in to the broadcast tonight, Alison Kubota, absolute rock star of a human being, races several zones on several occasions. Her teammate, Team Cognition, Matti Pikelny, getting ready to go. We've also got Jeff Rooney, who's taking over Timothy Tamont's spot as king of the bottom left-hand corner. I'm sure our executive producer, Victor Lundquist, will take a look at that. Casey Shum as well, Team Experimental in the racing. Recently made for some really good highlights with him working together with Matti, with him looking tired. Frank Garcia also taking time out of his day to come race with us here in Zones K and L. And with Aquavello coming up, this will be a great race to watch as they get started. It is 5 laps and a one-time scoring multiplier. We'll see who's going to take the win here on Aquavelo. Last race up, it was Timothy Tamont, but this time it is a bigger blob. There's more of a field here. Does that make it easier? Does that make it tougher? I guess we'll just have to watch it unfold. Jeff Rooney, who's shot out of a cannon on the front, is the only one racing tonight, Zone K, with this as a preferred zone. But there's a lot of people in here racing, streaming in. They're going to get the same bonus points as Jeff. So Jeff starts with a 16-point cushion thanks to his preferred zone. How much is that going to mean in the end? We will see, but that will be the extra incentive for our Kiwi. Kenjal Desai also in here racing. She's having some breakout performances recently, and it'd be great to get her on the stream as well. Alison Kubota off the back. She is using comeback kit from this point in the racing. You can see that gives you 367 equalized watts more for 45 seconds or until you catch the rider ahead of you. So 700 meters to go. I think it will last for about a lap and a half, and then they will run out. It's going to be the question of whether or not she actually makes it back into the front group. She's got a 6 km/h speed differential boost, and she could time this in such a way that she might be able to go over the top. She's at 1200 equalized watts, and Tim sits off the back there and makes it nullify. But with 1 lap to go, Alison Kubota could actually pull one over thanks to the comeback kit power up. Here we go. Last lap of racing. Tim attempts the very same thing that Alison Kubota did. He is going all out from the back here, but a rider sits up and lets down. That's his comeback kit over. Casey Shum on the front. Matti Bikelny. Matti Bikelny is attacked off the front in all the chaos. Matti Bikelny with a long-range attack catches everybody else sleeping. Matti wins, Casey second, Rick Woods third, and Frank Garcia fourth. So in the meanwhile, while everyone was trying to use their power up to the best of their abilities, Matti Bikelny said, you're not even seeing me. I'm off the front. And he attacked away and got a solid gap. You can see Tim just a bit too late there. And the issue is with the comeback kits now, everyone is so aware to the fact that when they see someone pop a comeback kit, they let off the gas ever so slightly to go back down to the group behind and nullify. As you can see, Matti fighting for the first spot. Casey Shum, even with comeback kit, it wasn't enough to catch the quick Cognition rider Matti Bikelny. You see the side-on shot. It got close in the end, but sigh of relief from Matti. Congratulations, Matti. Was it a conscious decision not to use the comeback kit in that last race?
Oh, I tried. My teammate Allison went with about 0.4 kilometers to go, and I followed and popped it, but I was overlapping wheels with someone, so I didn't get the benefit, the slingshot. So I really just had to lay down 1,000 equalized and hold as long as I could. And I was lucky that I stayed away. But I tried. It was a good move, and her timing was perfect. So it was my fault. I waited. I used it a little bit too early.
It was a win nonetheless, so maybe a bit of misuse on the power, but it didn't matter in the end. It's shaping up again. Casey was second, you were first. You had that cooperation last time you were on the track together. Is this the beginning of a rivalry between the two of you?
Rivalry, friendship, and all of that. He's a formidable opponent, and he probably has fresher legs today than when I raced him in T last Tuesday. So I'm looking for him to put a world of hurt on the whole field, especially on this track coming up right now.
Yeah, because this track coming up now was also raced earlier today. Your two teammates, Tadeo Ikeba and Alison Kubota, raced it. Did you have a chance to watch the broadcast or speak to your teammates about how that one panned out?
Not only did I have a chance to watch it, I replayed that race from this morning to prepare for this one now. So I raced against the ghosts from some of the people who are racing again now, and saw how things unfolded. So it'll be interesting to see if it's a repeat of the sort of sedate start that it had this morning with that one lone attack, or if there's going to be other fireworks. But yeah, I had an opportunity to practice the race before the race.
That is fantastic. I love that the level of dedication to the game. Thanks, Matti. Let's go and hear from Casey while we see the instant replays and the highlights of the earlier zone today on Cityscape New York. Casey, runner-up in the last race. Did you also take the time to do a physical replay this morning, or do you not think that's a smart idea?
No, I enjoyed my coffee and rested this morning. So I didn't do any prep today, and I should have. I didn't scope the tracks or anything, so we're flying blind.
How do you think that's going to impact your performance in this next 50 seconds when it gets going?
Sometimes what you don't know is better because you don't know. So I think it'll be all right until we get to the higher skill stuff. When we start getting the wrecking, I know these tracks pretty well, so I think I'll be all right. But yeah, that's when it'll come into it, is when we got to watch corner speed.
Well, 30 seconds to go. We'll see if Casey's coffee or Matti Pikelny's replay will be the secret sauce to the win here. Frank Garcia also fourth in the last race. He's coming into this one with teammates in Rick Woods, Sharon Hackathorn, Vanessa Murahan. So there may be some help from him. He's missing his lieutenant, Kayla Laguna, sidelined today with an injury, but she will surely be back next week for more racing. But we're about to get underway. Cityscape, New York. We've got Elisha, Robert Orville, the usual crowd, as off to an early start. Kinjal Desai, also, she's a member of Team CVR, and she's becoming a force. Last time on Cityscape, New York, she attacked from the gun, and they never saw her again. And Frank Garcia is putting on the blocks on the front. He is playing enforcer now, as you can see him blocking Matti, blocking the rest. He's at a comfortable speed, but his teammate, Kinjal Desai, up the road for the 3 scoring multiplier race and not letting anyone through. Rig Woods as well down in 4th place. Both of them here putting a block on. Matti Pikelny trying to get through. Neil Stewart also making it to the front. So can Kinjal race 3 laps on her own? We've seen it once before. And here comes the bigger question in as well that's in the picture. How much of a threat is Kinjal to the overall Omnium? Because you look at Frank, you look at Casey, you look at Tim, you look at Matti. They have a tendency to sometimes like stare at each other, make these mental calculations on the fly and say, oh, I can't let Tim go. I can't let Matti go because I know they're a threat over 4 races. In the last race, Kinjal finished further down, but in this one, we've seen her do it before. She's 12 seconds up the road. Frank and Rick are taking up the lead. Rick at 400 equalized watts. Not necessarily putting on the brakes too much here now, as the 2 of them are lined up at the front. Further down, you've got Tim Fulford comfortably trusting the butts. He is 8 seconds down and in a secondary group out on the road, as you've got Alison Kubota also in this group. She's on the front and she lets the butts come on through. So the reason why you see Rick and Frank pacing down, it's not to catch Kinjal, it's to try and get rid of the butts, to try and get away from Alison Kubota and Tim Fulford that are catching a ride with the group further back. On the front, though, you've got Casey and Matti Pikelny both hatching a ride here in the CVR train. Also, shout out to Neil Stewart out of Canada, as he is on the back of this group and he is hanging on. Could be a breakout performance for Neil Stewart today, but the green colors of CVR are definitely shaping up to have a firm control over the Central Park region of CVRcade as they pass Monument Hall for the first time of 3, as you see Matti Pikelny. Now, we're getting a bit of a deja vu because earlier today we saw Thomas Tibbling, who I know is watching this, and Thomas is quickly becoming one of my favorite streamers to get into the broadcast. His sheer honesty is refreshing, and his sheer, like, you can just tell what he's feeling as Matti Pikelny attacks on through at a higher equalized heart rate, uses race's edge, uses wind at his back, and he opts here to attack. He's also got a quantum shift, but not using that. Casey Shum just marking that move as he comes on through with a lot more speed here. And now Frank Garcia as well. Matti Pikelny could very well get caught up in this move, that if Frank, Neil, and Rick, if they all use their power-ups and just do a 1-2 punch, quantum shift gets used by Frank. He does not want to get blocked. He passes 1, he passes 2, and he can now see Kinjal 5 seconds up the road. And if he can bridge that gap, then he's got a valuable ally in Kinjal, who clearly must have this as her favorite course. And Matti Pikelny, second Razor's Edge, 2 of 2 Razor's Edges from Matti, uses Quantum Shift. He wants to get up, and then Casey Shum uses his second Wind at Back power up. So it's all panic stations from all the races. None of them wants to get dropped. Frank uses his Wind at the back as well, and Kinjal, who's got all her power-ups left, I believe, now she can counter as well if she's got anything left. A 155 equalized heart rate. She looks to be relatively fresh at this point, as Rig Woods, strong as an ox in there. He is in the front, but 3 green jerseys, 1 blue, 1 black. How will this pan out? Jeff Rooney doesn't look like he's made the start in this one. So despite the good start in the first race, hasn't quite made the jump in here to the second one, as Matti uses Quantum Shift, his second, because Rick Woods is on the front and slowing things down. And Matti, realizing this, and into the straight on headwind, he attacks. He sees Frank, he sees Casey, and Matti has worked with Casey before. He knows the threat at hand, and you can see him digging in, throwing down the wattage. 450 equalized watts, 192. And he's just within reach. And now he latches back on. He can catch his breath. Matti, though, out of power-ups. Frank, I believe, out of power-ups. Casey may have 1 left, but he's also got a Quantum Shift, I think. So advantage is to Kinjal and Rick, because they still got more of their power-ups left. 5 seconds off the back is Kinjal. On the back of this is Rick, and when you look further down the road, you've got Alison Kubota, you've got Tim Fulford. They are 20 seconds down. But if there's no cooperation in the front group, if they don't work together, this group, this peloton will catch back up, because 23 seconds can go by in the blink of an eye if there's no cooperation. But you see Frank, you see Casey, they are adamant to make this move stick, as Matti is up here. He's got a more elevated heart rate, so he's working harder at this point. We're almost at the halfway point, and Matti is in a world of trouble at this point. You can see the suffering on his face, the wind coming from different directions. You've got to really be trying to search for that draft. But if Matti, he knows the dangers of Rick Woods, because if Rick in the green passes Matti, there's a chance that he may just block him now as they are attacking. Let's see if he's going to happen now, because the gap is increasing. It's Casey, it's Frank. It was 1 second, but that gap is 3. It's about to become 4, and Matti on his limit could very well be riding out of his league here as we're entering the halfway point of Cityscape New York. Frank's done his turn, and Casey Shum comes on through. Former teammates at Team Experimental now cross teams, but there's still some good love in between them as they choose and opt to work together here in Cityscape New York. Remember, we've got 2 more very challenging races coming up after this: Mountain Bike by Jesper and Dust Bowl Crit. We've also got another zone after this. So we're racing Zone K, which is what you're watching right now, where everyone is on fairly equal terms. There's only Jeff racing Zone K with a preferred zone. After this, we've got Zone L, where Frank has this as his preferred zone. Nigel Doyle and Matti Pikelny have it as their preferred zone as well. So very valuable bonus points on offer. Casey and Frank, though, starting to trade turns near the front. So it'll be interesting to see how it pans out, because Rick's further back. He could potentially bridge across, but he may not want to here. You can see Matti, he's sitting on the wheel of Rick Wood. So Rick keeping a relatively nice and comfortable pace here at 168, and Matti catching a ride. This is the high scoring multiplier event of the day, but it doesn't mean it's race over. When you're racing a 4-race Omnium, one of the key attributes to a good racer is composure. Searching for those. Composure. You have to be resting in yourself and understand that you can have a bad race. As long as you limit your losses, there is always the next race. Mountain Bike by Jesper, Frank and Casey could have an awful race. They could crash into the rocks. They could oversteer into a Castrop corner, and there you can win your points back. Dust Bowl Crit is 5 laps. There's inertia, there's Razor's Edge, there's weightlifted. that is never over until the fat lady sings. That's all I can say as Matti sits back down. Tim Fulford comfortably in the chasing group. He finished with 19 points in the last race, and he's set to get 51 points here, putting him in 6th position. He's got a chance to move on up, but he's going to have to work hard. Alison Kubota catching a ride there from Thomas or Guillermo. It's always good to see the butts out there. I absolutely love the names as well as they are enjoying the ride. On the front, we go back to Casey Shum. Casey Shum, Team Experimental. Good cohesiveness between Casey and Frank here. Both of them opting to work together, as next time they cross the finish line, that will mark the last lap of racing on Cityscape, New York. And you start to wonder, when does this partnership stop working out? When do they start looking? Because Frank needs to win this one, but so does Casey technically, because the difference between winning and second place is 12 points on the Omnium. And right now, if Casey was to win, 17 points of an advantage over Frank. But then Frank perhaps deciding that he might be stronger later on, as we see down in 5th place. Casey making the sign that they seem to be working together. As we can see, Kinjal is using her win at back power up further back. So she's still got power ups in her sleeve, but she is suffering. She's trying to work back up. As she's in 5th, she's 20 seconds back. And Matti Bikelny has got a slight smile on his face. He's in a good position here with Rick Woods, but doubt has started to slightly start to creep in, because Tim hasn't used any of his power-ups. Allison, a teammate, hasn't used any of her power-ups. If that group of butts gets close to Matti Bikelny and Rick Woods with 2 wind at your back, with 2 Razor's Edge, 30 seconds is not too difficult to catch, because you've got 40 seconds of power-ups at your disposal. 40 seconds of that kind of boost can make all the difference. So we're on the last lap. On the front, you still got Frank and Casey trading turns. There's some valuable points on offer, and they seem to be staying together for now, but you're always close until the moment somebody uses their not when they use the powers, when they decide to accelerate. Once that first move gets put in, that's where the difference is set. And when you look at the scoreboard now, with Frank on the front, he would then be the virtual leader heading into the next race, 7 points ahead. But then Casey comes through, and you see what happens to the scoreboard. From 7 points ahead to 17 points behind, that is first and second. That is the difference that's on offer here. And both racers not only thinking about the Omnium, surely they'll want to win the stage as well and be able to put their name on the trophy at the end of this. Difference between Matti and Frank, if Matti was to come second or 4th and Frank was to come second, would be 6 points. Rick 1 point behind Matti Bikelny. They've got Monument Hall as they turn to the right, but the gap is coming close now. Kinjal is about to be swept up by Tim Fulford's and Alison Kubota's group of butts that they are, they're forcing around like there are horses in the Colosseum. You got the gladiators saying, come on, up, 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 as they are catching Kinjal. Now Matti is accelerating, 20 seconds up. He wants to break the spirits of Rick Woods. 20 equalized watts is the difference, but Rick is stuck on like glue. Rick Woods is going nowhere. He's still there, still there, still there. As now 18 seconds up to the front, Matti is not letting up any easier. He does not want to take Rick to a sprint, but Rick at 800 equalized watts, 600. It's coming down now. Matti has got to stay on it. Once you have attacked, you commit to it. And a 196 equalized heart rate. Teeth starting to grind, but a byproduct of this is that you can now see Casey and Frank up the road. 14 seconds up now. He's gaining inwards. But how long can he keep this up? Because Rick Woods is right there on his wheel. And he says, hey, Matti, I see what you did. I'm still here. And he nullifies the attack as the pace comes down once more. 5th place is up on offer, but more importantly, at the front. I wonder if there could always be a deal being brokered between the two of them. If you say, okay, I'll pace, you take this one, I take the next one, and we work together. That could be the case, but I think both of them will want to win this one equally as high. As 1 kilometer to go, Frank moves over and Casey comes on through. I reckon Casey might still have one power up left in the tank, and Frank has used all his. Oh, Casey shakes the head. Nope, everything's been used in the attacks, so nothing left. So all fair and square between the two as they get ready for the sprint. Of course, you can never truly rely on these signals. Casey could be bluffing, having a wind at his back. That's the great sign of a good cyclist is when you start going, I've got nothing left. 10 seconds later in the big ring saying, see ya. 700 meters to go, still working together. Matti, though, trying to shake Rick Wood. He's trying to do it. Nothing really happening as Casey makes the sign for Frank to come on through, but Matti is working hard. He is 20 seconds down now on Casey and Frank, and with 500 meters to go, I don't think he's going to catch back up. But the track sprint is coming up. Frank on the wheel of Casey. I wonder how you play this one out, because Frank is still there, still second wheel. He's getting the draft. 300 meters to go. Quantum shift. There he goes. Frank Garcia, 1,200 equalized watts. Casey ready to the task. All or nothing. This is a long sprint from Frank Garcia. 200 meters to go. Casey with that very, very trademark style of sprinting. He gives it everything. You can see him pushing hard, but it's going to be Frank Garcia with one long sprint, crossing the line, taking valuable points. Casey Shum second. Matti versus Rick. Matti slowing it down. Tim Fulford is attacking. Tim could catch back up here. There is 8 seconds between them. Racer's edge again, but there doesn't seem to be much left at the front. Matti is blocking Rick. Rick. Matti is still in the front. He takes the inside lane, but Matti with excellent gameplay mechanics takes that one ahead of Rick Woods. Tim Fulford just too late on the power-ups. Will take 5th, and then you got Allison and Kinjol 6th and 7th respectively over the line. But this means it's incredibly close in the top 5 going into mountain bike by Jesper. Frank, with 300 meters to go, uses quantum shift to go through Casey and catches him off guard, moves to the inside lane. Casey not in the draft of Frank, not getting the advantage of that extra boost as Frank gives it his all, and you can see Casey attempting. He knows what he's up against. The cheeky sprinter that Frank Garcia is never going to let up once he's got the gap. And look at the face of Casey Shum. There was not much left, and neither for Frank, as you can see him gasping for air. Congratulations, Frank. You and Casey off the front. Was there a deal in place to work to this finish line, or did that just naturally happen?
I think it naturally happened. We were old teammates, and so we just know how to work a break and do a really good job at it's got to end, and you got to go for the win because this is racing. But a shame we couldn't cross, hand in hand. It's really quite good. He worked hard.
That sprint was long though, like 300 meters. Was there ever a point when you thought, I've opened this too early?
No, I planned 350 meter sprint, and once I lit the match, I knew I could keep it going until the end. I let up with about 25 meters to go because it was obvious that I had it, but no, that was planned.
How about Kinjol and Rick? Because they put on the early pressure, allowing you to break away. What does it mean to have riders like that inside your team?
I thought it was great. I hoped Kinjol would stay away. When Casey took up the chase, I knew that was going to be a difficult day. Rick pulled for a while to get us back into position when Matti and Casey made the chase. Really, CVRcade all about teammates. It's much harder if you're solo. You got the teammates, the physics, the cycling physics really play into teamwork. And I think perhaps CVRcade even highlights teamwork better than in real life racing because, with power-ups and whatnot, it's easier to see.
Well, mountain bike by Jesper coming up. Let's go and hear from Casey as well from that last race as he gets ready. Casey, what was it like to be in a 2-man breakaway with Frank?
That was good. Frank's not TT-er going solo usually, so we know each other well enough. We were racing straight up there. I knew it was going to come down to, we would take the gloves off at the end. We both know that, but that's not going to happen until we're sure the gap's there. And that's exactly what happened. So we think it went really well. The beginning was interesting because CVR was still doing work with their teammate up the road, but they were trying to hold a gap to not let the bots get back up to us. So it was a little bit of interesting play earlier. It took me a minute to figure out what was going on.
Well, Casey, crashing has been something that's taken you out of the overall scoring a few times. This is a very technical course. Are you confident in your ability to keep the rubber side down?
Oh, not at all. No. We've got wind also. I think we've got a tailwind coming into the tricky corner too. So
Yes.
yeah, this'll be carnage.
Well, good luck, Casey. We'll see. We'll have a chat with Matti and Tim as well after this one, as they are also closer up there. 10 seconds to go. Tim Fulford trying to bridge the gap to Matti in the end, but it just wasn't meant to be, as he takes the position ahead of Rick Woods. Jeff Rooney's back in this race. The Velocity Vixen rider racing his preferred zone, lacking out on some very important points in the last race, as he is now back in, and Frank Garcia comes on through. This race, though, does have a flat tire, and Allison used hers, but she tried to emulate exactly what she did earlier, as Frank uses his flat tire too. Earlier on today, Alison Kubota used her flat tire to perfection. So it functioned like not only like a flat tire, but it was a quantum shift. Because everyone came to a standstill, she went right through him, but she was too far off the back. So as she used her flat tire, she slammed into the back of Jeff as he became solid again. So solid attempt. Not so solid execution this time, but last time as Jeff crashes into Casey, overlapping the wheels. 5th and 4th, Casey Shum, Matti Pikelny, as they are fighting for the positions. That overall, with Frank Garcia out into the early lead, he is a very large threat for the Omnium victory, and it's Tim Fulford who is choosing to chase him down. 3 seconds between them coming into Kastrup corner. It's not over yet because Frank is on the front, but crashing can happen. Frank used his one flat tire. That's how he got his 4-second gap. While Allison used his, Frank managed to get over the top. Seeing that everyone is still on that steep incline, he used his to get the advantage he's currently got. But now we watch. Is anyone going to use it as Frank is on the incline? No. Anyone when Tim is on the incline? No. They are opting to save it until later. That flat tire power-up is so powerful, as we can see. Matti Pikelny in the Cognition kit still, I mean, he just can't get enough of Rick Woods. Him and Rick side by side trading blows as they ride into the headwind. Here in the mountain bike course, they're given 1 flat tire power up and 2 power plant power ups. As Matti choosing the inside lane here, it's quicker, it's more dangerous, but it is quicker, and he comes back out, taking 1 lane just to be sure he doesn't crash as he gets on the wheel of Rick Woods. Casey Shum sitting comfortably behind Matti Pikelny. Matti separated by 1 point on the overall scoreboard, but Frank having a 30-point lead at the front. So he's comfortable, but with plenty of flat tire power-ups left. There are sprints to be had. There are tight finishes. There are crashes as Tim and Frank side by side. Tim overcooking it ever so slightly, but safe because Frank also slides out. So the two side by side coming down the straight where the headwind is quite strong. 4 kilometers left. We've got 7 laps in total and 2 laps down. Frank, early lead. Tim out there as well as Matti is chasing on. He is still fighting to get in. Allison is 30 seconds down. She's out there riding as well. As Cognition have Sebastian Kuhn, Alison Kubota, and they're trying their best as Allison is joined by Elisha and Nicola out on course. We see Matti, Rick, Casey, Tim, Frank. That is a 5-man front group. Oh, and Matti crashes. I think there's like an invisible lane there that may not be marked by rocks. I've seen crashes there before, and I think he tried to not cheat, as in trying to cheat the game, but I think he tried to cheat by going on that lane a bit too early to get a rest. And then when he gets on there, you can just see him crashing as I think he tries to turn left, and He crashes. He knows he's not happy with it. He's got 6 seconds up to Casey, and it's not over yet. I believe Matti is racing both zones today, and the next one is his preferred zone. So you start to wonder, will Matti sit up and perhaps surrender the lead at the top and opt to go for Zone L, the zone that starts in a half an hour live here on Mixer. Tim and Frank still sharing the load on the front. They come through Castrop Corner and they get through safely, cross the start-finish banner, as you can see, and they will start the second half of this race as a rider on the right takes a crash. Frank is on the wheel with Tim leading the front here. He is at fourth and fifth. He keeps changing positions with Rick as Rick and Casey are swapping positions. Rick uses power plant. They're only 4 seconds down, and Casey and Rick could very well get back up to the front. You see Rick using power plant. Casey just searching for the draft with Jeff and with Mike out there on course as well. As you look from above, Tim and Frank, we pause the camera, we count. There is Rick, you count. There is Casey, and then you've got Matti just 8 seconds down, and with flat tire power-ups, I think the last lap is going to be like flat tire, flat tire, flat tire. And if you didn't bring enough inner tubes, it could be a tough finish for you come the end of this race. Matti Bikelny is going to be soaring his crash earlier. That is the difference between being with the third and fourth place group on the road. But we're coming up to the front here. Castrop Corner. It is crowded. Allison hits into Frank. Allison, oh, she hits into Frank, and that is the separation. If Tim sees this, he could choose to attack here and put Frank into some trouble, but Frank reacts cleverly, and despite the adversity, he is right on the wheel once more. So what happened there is Allison, maybe not checking her mirrors, doesn't see, flat tire from Tim on the top. Oh, we head into the replay. We missed the great flat tire of Tim here as we see the replay of Allison. But Tim Fulford as Matti crashes again. As we got to the top of the incline, Tim sprinted over it, and Frank was still on the incline as Tim used flat tire power-up. The check will be in the mail for Alison Kubota for her research and development, as she tested that strategy earlier on to great perfection. She tested it on her guinea pigs, Timothy and Tim Fulford, and now Tim is returning the favor as he's got a 12-second gap on Frank Garcia, and it's going to be close coming into Dust Bowl Crit towards the end now, because a scoring multiplier of 2.5, and we know Tim likes Dust Bowl Crit. He knows how to race that one hard. He saved a few matches on New York City, and now we wait. You can see how big the gap is down to the chasing group thanks to that overhead camera. And Casey has got flat tire. Rick has caught Frank on the front, so the two teammates are joined together. Rick's got his flat tire still. Casey has got it still. Matti has got it still. So we've got 2 laps remaining. All the bots on the right deciding to sit back down, and now they start their pursuit of the Spitfire from the front. Tim Fulford, 12 seconds down. That gap is only going to grow, and he needs to keep fighting because he's used his power up as Casey's accelerating. I think Casey might be looking to have a flat tire power up here. No, he uses his power plant and comes on through. You only get 2, and it gives you that 100 watts more for 10 seconds as he comes into the straight headwind section. You can see him standing up like he's on a 10% incline. That's because the resistance in the trainer does change according to the wind direction. And one way it's a headwind, now he gets into the tailwind and he can start spinning up that gear. But he's only 3 seconds down, and valuable points now as Frank had a very large gap on the front of the Omnium, but now it's down to only 11 points to Casey. And Casey, if he catches Frank and Rick, there's a good chance. But 1 lap to go. Tim crosses the start-finish line here, and we ring the bell once more. Flat tires still available for 3 of the top 5. Jeff and Allison have theirs too. Allison used her earlier. Jeff still has his. So we come to the incline. This is where you want to use it if you are a different racer. But no, Tim safely comes on through. Nobody uses it in the straight-on headwind on that steep section towards the top. As we see Frank and Rick, Casey in 4th, Matti in 5th. They are still fighting. Flat tires all available. Nobody's using theirs just yet. Tim, power plant, 500 meters to go. Rick uses his, and that will affect Tim. Tim did use his power plant, but he's into the tailwind section here. So he escapes on through. Nobody using their flat tires on Tim's headwind section. No one using it on the climb, and now he can see the home stretch. He's just got to keep fighting. Rick, 10 seconds back. Frank, 15 seconds back, as Frank gets passed by Casey on the outside. As we're on Rick now, he's in hot pursuit. Flat tires still available for a few of the other riders here, but it's going to be Tim with 100 meters to go that takes the win here on mountain bike by Jesper, the third of 4 races in Zone K, and he can be proud of that one. That is a tough victory as he crosses the line in first. Casey Shum has passed Frank 5 seconds back. Can Matti Pikilny also catch Frank? That will be a tough one. Rick in second place finishes. Casey taking valuable points, and he's only 3 points behind on Frank at the top heading into Dust Bowl Crit. No crashes for Casey as he comes on through. Frank Garcia, Kastrup corner. I think there's still a lot of power-ups that hadn't been used in that one, but they will be saved for another day. Frank through Matti. That one crash followed by a second crash. He'll be racing with some built-up steam coming into the next one. So watch out for Matti Pikilny as we see Tim come to the line. You see Rick Woods as well. So we finish up the race here, a mountain bike by Jesper. Won by Tim. He is in 5th place now on the overall, heading in to the last race here on Zone K in the CVRcade World Cup, and this fantastic Saturday evening as Tim can take the victory on mountain bike by Jesper as we're getting ready for the racing at hand. Let's hear from Tim Fulford as he took the win. Tim, that is a race that you've won previously today. Your flat tire power-up was used to perfection. Talk me through the execution behind that power-up usage.
All credit for that power-up usage needs to go to Alison Kubota because she did the exact same thing to me this morning. You want to pop it where it's going to be hardest to get the bike going again. So 14% on that first little kicker. And then it was just a matter of trying to hold on. But yeah.
Last race of Zone K, Dust Bowl Crit. I know it's one of your favorite courses. You're a bit further down than you usually are in the Omnium. Is that down to the lack of teammates, or what do you attribute your 5th place currently to?
So I won the Omnium earlier today, so I was quite happy with winning that. So I thought just take the highest multiplier one easy and see if we can save something, because I guess I didn't watch it, but Casey and Frank probably took some chunks out of each other, and then just concentrate on the last 2 races and try and perfect them.
You are only 2 points down from Rick and Matti. Do you think we're going to start to see some fading from the top 2?
Yeah, I know. I mean, anything's still possible. I could still win it if everything goes my way, but it's 5 laps. So just use power up sensibly, be aware of the wind, corner speeds. I think it'll be a pretty intense race.
We also got Matti in here, and I want to hear from Matti. Matti, those 2 crashes, they look devastating from where I sit. Was they equally devastating to you racing?
Oh, yeah. The first crash where I just didn't wait long enough to enter the inside lane. There's a rock right at the end, or at the entrance to that turn, and had I waited another second, I would have timed it well, but I was overeager to try to save a couple seconds by taking a shorter distance with the far inside line. But my aggressiveness cost me, so I lost that group. The second crash didn't really matter that much because I had a lot of time on the people behind me, and not really much prospect of catching back up to the guys after that first crash. So tried to save it, and we'll see what happens on this course. I love this course, so it's going to be fun. 5 laps.
I'll let you get ready. I can see you're on the steep incline, so you can spin up the bike again. Good luck, Matti, Frank, Casey, Rick, Tim, Allison, Sharon, whoever else is racing out there. It is so close at the top. Frank and Casey are separated by 3 points in first and second. Rick, Motty, and Tim separated by 2 points, as Nigel Doyle is also racing this one as warm-up for the next race. Loving the yellow CCC kid. So you can see him get ready out on course for the next zone, as he's got that as his preferred zone. But this is for all the marvels. 3 points separate Casey and Frank, and despite the bonus points all available, essentially who wins the scoreboard preliminary will most likely win it as well. As Rick Woods uses inertia out of the gate. Oh, he did a homer. He did. Oh, we see the difference. Oh, that's just heartbreaking. Rick Woods out there and using inertia at 26 kilometers an hour right from the gate is not necessarily what you want to do when you have the high stakes. And now Rick Crash is trying to make up for it. Oh, nightmare for the CVR rider. He was up there top 5, and now he's feeling the downside of everything. Coming into this, we got the hill, Frank and Tim side by side. You heard Tim say it, anything can go his way here. If it all plays out, he could potentially win the overall as a weight lifted gets used by everyone. Casey, quick on the left. Any of the top 5 can realistically win the Omnium. It comes down to how these 5 laps of Dust Bowl Crit pan out. Everyone opting to be on the right side here, taking that apex route through, slowing down, moving on over. Oh, we get a tumble from Motty and Tim. Tim and Motty lock up wheels, and both of them go crashing down, 3rd and 4th respectively, and they both know they risked it for a biscuit and got their hands caught in the cookie jar. As coming into that very difficult chicane, Tim coming on through, just trying to save it. He crashes. Mutty, the exact same thing. The smile on Tim's face as he knows what happened. Frank uses inertia. So does Casey. They use it on the first lap. Frank used his entire salvo of power-ups. So does Mutty with his inertia. Everyone triggering their power-ups. Mutty with the crashes early on with Tim, and the way this affects the scoreboard with Casey in the lead. Oh, Mutty crashes again! Oh, one-way ticket to Crashville, and it looks to be an express ticket for Mutty P. Kelney. There is no return on that one as he overcooks the corner once more. And will he be able to make amends? He's got his teammate Allison Kubota just behind him with Rick and with Nigel. He might be able to elicit some help from Allison. But oh my goodness, the ticket inspector's out here, and Motty P. Kelney definitely bought a last-minute off-peak ticket there, as that's gotta hurt. Frank and Casey. I think it comes down to whoever wins the... Oh, Frank! Oh, overlapping wheels with Casey. That corner is steep, and Frank just coming in, and Casey happy with that one. You can see he's sipped down the jersey to get in extra oxygen as Frank and Casey. Frank just overlapping the wheels. There's Mutty in the replay. Oh my goodness, I can't believe it. That train is derailed long ago as Frank overlaps the wheels. Rick as well, as now we come on through. And there looks to be, I'm not sure what just happened. On my screen, we've just, no! Oh, what's just happened? I think we may have just had a technical difficulty. We look around and you see everybody's concerned faces. I think what's just happened is suddenly the ticket inspectors came, and it was only Mutty P. Kelney that had a ticket. So they chose to take everybody else off the train and say, come on with me. It's time to buy a ticket. But then all necessarily, it looks like there may have been some technical difficulties in the game. And as it was shaping up to be a fantastic finish, the engineers, the team, the ever awesome support team will take a closer look. We do also have a team of judges and juries and executive commissioners on the scoring side. So I'm sure that they will take a closer look, because everyone is thinking about their points. But here we've got the highlights. You get the last one from Mountain Bike by Jesper, and I will await further communication from the team to understand what's happening. But if everything gets sorted, we do have another set of races in 16 minutes, and I would assume that everything gets ready to go as we watch the highlights of the last 2 races. We do have another zone coming up, so regardless of the ticket inspection or not, I hope we get to see Zone L because Frank has that as his preferred zone. Nigel Doyle, Matti Pikelny have it as their preferred zones as well. And that's going to be really good. And with how Dustball Crypt panned out in the end with the technical issues, there's going to be some build up, adrenaline, some endorphins that are ready to be released. And that should mean that the next race should be even closer at the top as we see the highlights of the last race. Rick and Tim crossing the line as we await further communications from the engineering team. But of course, CVRcade, we are still in beta, meaning that sometimes bugs like flaws, they do happen. It's not very frequently it does, but as more races get on, we stress test the system, and it's great to catch these things while they happen, while we are in beta. And this is made possible thanks to you. So thanks for being awesome now as we get ready for another set of 4 races coming up. Aquavelo, we've got Cityscape New York, Mountain Bike by Jesper, and Dust Ball Crypt. So we get ready. I'm hearing oh, there was no flaw. Oh, wait. I'm hearing that there was no flaw, but accidentally it looks like it was inserted as 1 lap. So unfortunately, it looks like the events team may have made a slight mistake. That was quite the anticlimax. Everyone was looking around going, what's happened? But instead of getting 5 laps, it was down as 1. And that can happen. And unfortunately, that's how it turns out. While we watch the instant replays going on, in 14 minutes, we've got more racing. I hope all the racers stick around because that is an anticlimax. And we get 4 more races to make up for it. Somewhere, Matti Pikelny is going, oh, events team, you saved me. You say I just kept crashing. Nonetheless, good racing. Matti winning the first race in Zone K. Cityscape New York coming up as we watch. And I do want to apologize, by the way, to the engineering team. I did not mean to make the assumption that there was a flaw in the game. We saw it, and that was my immediate thoughts. But the game held up, and that's always awesome to see as well. As we're in beta, it's good to see that the game is good and ready to go. But this happens from time to time, and it can be disappointing. But we are in beta. New York Cityscape here. We're watching the fight at the beginning of Zone K. Matti and Casey swapping turns at the front, trying to get back up. Quantum Shift win at their back. And it was Casey and Frank that were able to break the spirits of Matti Pikelny because Matti was right there. He was like 1 second back, 2 seconds back. But the teamwork between Casey and Frank was too much to overcome. Despite being on different teams, they understand how to work together as they're I think that was the sign of the agreement between Casey and Frank. The gloves were on, but then come the end, the gloves very much came off as they got ready to sprint for the finish. While you're watching the highlights, the racers are filling up their bidons. They are warming up their legs. They're getting a fresh towel, maybe changing their bibs as they get ready for Zone L. More action-packed racing in the CVRcade World Cup, where we're racing for that overall prize purse of $25,000, a platform that is free to play. And this CVRcade World Cup, as long as you sign up during the open session, is including the events pass or the riders pass that allows you entry here into the CVRcade World Cup. So free to play, you can get involved. And now you watch the Mountain Bike by Jesper highlights. The reason I look so excited is because Allison attempted her very great strategy and it just didn't pay off for her that time as Tim and Frank side by side watched them cross the finish line as the racing was on. Allison changing the lanes here, crashing as she's with the butts. It was good racing all around as Matti Pikelny, you heard him say, user error, just not seeing the rocks on the left, not happy with that one. Tim and Frank coming into the line here. Allison, this is where she crashed, slowing down both Tim and Frank there by being in their way and parking the bike. Casey comes on through, he accelerates through Sebastian. He goes off in pursuit as flat tire powers are being used, but it just wasn't enough in the end as Tim was gonna be the winner on Mountain Bike by Jesper. Rick Woods attacking his way back, but it just wasn't enough as he ran out of real estate on the mountain bike trails of the lake view on that track. Good win nonetheless for Team Cycling Hub and Tim Fulford. It was shaping up to be an excellent finish on Dust Bowl Crit, the fourth and last race of the day, as we get ready for the unfortunate one-lap race. But that one lap saw so much action as everyone was going for it. Rick crashed early on, used inertia, then Frank crashed, and then also several other crashes happened in there. Tim, Mutty, both smiling as they go down earlier on, then Allison coming on through as well. But that was the Zone K. That was all she wrote for Zone K as Frank crashes coming into the line with Casey Shum. And now we get ready. But this gives us an opportunity to go and talk to some of the riders. We'll start with Frank, because Frank, that last race was shaping up to be a really close finish. How disappointed are you that you were lost out on 4 laps of good racing?
I think it's the first time I've ever been happy I crashed. Because if I had followed, because I was definitely in wheel suck mode on Casey, and if I had crossed that finish line and not noticed it was just 1 lap, I would have been very upset with myself. I thought it played really well. Madi and Tim overcooked the corner after the hill. I was hard on the brake because I'd used inertia and got down to speed. So they crashed. Me and Casey made it through. And I was pretty happy with that. I figured me and Casey, I probably was expecting Casey to do most of the work, but he had to work hard in the previous race to get back. And I sat up and took it easy, so I liked my chances. And then on that one corner, going into the finish line, I was braking. He was going in a little hot, and I just blew it. I should have braked a little bit more, but I was too much in wheel suck mode, and it cost me.
How much of your initial advantage by catching people off guard in Cityscape New York and winning that high scoring multiplier, that advantage, how much of that has gone away now that we're going into Zone L and everyone is attentive and knowing that you're bringing your A game today?
New York, you just have to want to suffer, and then you can get off the front. You need someone to work with. And so, you're just looking to get one person to go with you, and then just hope the other people are not looking to suffer, and so you can stay away. I think that makes Jesper hard, because Jesper's, the flat tires are a killer when you're tired, and you got to, sprint, 15 times. And then Dust Bowl, 5 laps. What should be 5 laps of Dust Bowl should be really, really hard. So it'll be interesting to see how this zone plays out.
I can't wait to see it get underway. Thank you, Frank, as well. I want to chat to Matti. Matti, I don't know how happy is the right word, but how relieved are you that was only 1 lap after 3 crashes in 1 lap?
I was surprised. I liked my chances to get back up to the front with Allison. You saw that after my second bonehead crash, where I used the inertia a little too late. Hold on a second.
Oh, no worries. We can come back to Matti as we figure out these. So with the broadcast and in-game comms widget, riders are able to speak to each other. So that is the reverb you're hearing back. Before we go talk to the newcomers, let's get a final word from Casey Shum as we get ready for the next zone. Casey, heading into the second zone now, what are the legs saying to you? Are you ready to do Aqua, Cityscape, mountain bike, and Dust Bowl Crit again?
We'll be wheel sucking a lot more the second round, that's for sure. But we're gonna go for another round. You remember me saying, Jesper, mid-race, when I said I didn't really plan for it? I didn't look how many laps were in the last race. Before we started, I saw 1 of 1. I plotted my power-ups to do 1 lap. I knew where to use them. I was going all in, and you kept saying 5 laps, and I'm like, where do I send Jesper money? Keep saying 5 laps.
Well, I can only apologize to everybody, but that is a sign of a clever racer. Well done, Casey. Thank you, Casey. And you can send the check in the mail. I'm currently in Denmark, and I'm sure my family will be happy to get that money, Casey. Thank you. Joining us in this broadcast, we have fan favorite Nigel Doyle, the man of unlimited head shakes. Nigel, you're coming into this. It's your preferred zone. You raced well last week on a Saturday. How are you feeling heading into the racing today?
Oh, I'm still tired from Fridays where I won Zone T, so I'm still feeling fatigued.
I love the little pluck there where I won Zone T, just like off the shoulder, Team CCC dominance. Does it feel good to take all 3 zones as a team in one day?
Yes, no, that was actually a surprise. I hadn't caught up with how the other guys had got on, and then I won mine, and then I found out the other 2 guys had won theirs. So, no, very good.
Now, you're coming into this one fresh compared to some of the others who have raced the zone before. How much will that come to play in this zone?
Oh, it might do, but as I said, I woke up this morning and I could feel my legs fatigue, so the legs aren't there.
We'll
So,
see.
we'll just see how we go.
That.
See how
Last
we go.
time, I remember people saying the legs weren't there. Suddenly, Sebastian winning everything, Peter winning everything, Ben and Nigel winning everything. Speaking of Ben, one of the CCC riders that won that zone on Thursday, Ben, you've really been making breakthroughs recently, winning Omniums. Will Zone L today be the latest victim to your crusade?
Well, we'll see. You know, after that win, my legs are a bit fatigued. But no, I'm just kidding. We'll just see. You know, it's not my preferred zone, so I just see what I got, and yeah, I'm not expecting too much today.
I like the underlying tone from all the CCC riders going, we'll see what we're expecting. One thing you've all got in common is the awesome homemade t-shirt, so I'll give you extra Jesper points for those. Thank you, Ben, and good luck with the racing coming up. Last words we'll hear before the racing gets underway. We've still got Tim here, and Tim, that last race, we asked Frank the same question. How disappointed are you that was over so quickly?
Got Tim here, and in that last race, he asked the same question. How disappointed are you that was over so quickly?
Oh, I'm not sure that Tim can hear us. I can hear the reverb in the background. He's getting in the zone and ready to go. So we've got 3 minutes until the racing starts. We're in Aquavella. We look at the start list. Casey Shum getting ready, texting the different teams, trying to make coalitions because he's got a lack of teammates. Nigel Doyle has got Ben Shuey along out there. Sebastian Kuhn has also got Homer Thompson. Sebastian Kuhn getting ready to race as well. Hopefully some of his issues have been resolved and he can race because he is a dominant racer. He's currently top 3 most accumulated points out there. And as we get ready, we've got a little hype video that we play at the beginning of every broadcast, and it'd be good to show you because maybe when you join later and you don't get to see that awesome little adrenaline pumping opener that we play to get you in the zone. So with 2 minutes and 20 to go, let's roll the Changing the Game video. But no, Beth, your goes crashing down. Termination, the suffering, the ability to... And she's unleashed everything in this attack. See just how much that win means to him. All the marvels. Kayla versus Allison and to the line. Kayla Laguna takes the victory. I keep finding myself jumping up and down, dancing to that soundtrack. That is the soundtrack of CVRcade and Changing the Game, because that's exactly what we're doing. We're changing the game of fitness. We're changing the game of esports. We're changing the game of streaming. We're making all of this into the next big thing. And if you want to jump on the train and get involved, maybe not buy one of Matti Pikelny's ticket, but if you want to get a ticket that's valid, you can get on. You can click that follow button down below, and you'll never miss another stream as we go live on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays at varying zones. If this racing has piqued your interest and you like indoor fitness racing such as this, you can head over to CVRcade.com, sign up. It's not too late. The open session where you get a chance to race and qualify for the bracketed session that starts following the end of next week. Now is the time. This is your last chance soon to qualify for that bracketed session where the Elite Bracket Series winner will take $3,000. For many, that is over a month's salary just from riding your bike for a prolonged period of time. So get yourself a nice vacation by racing your bike. But here we go. The racing is underway, and we've got a lot of racers taking to the start list here. Ben Shuilong, Alison Kubota, Nigel Doyle, Casey Shum, Frank Garcia, Neil Stewart, Tim Fulford. Tim from the Gone Using Comeback Kit this time around. So missing that initial jump, uses his comeback kit. And this time around, he won't be trying to use it to set up for a sprint finish. No skill events are always so quick. It just seems like we start the stream with no skill event, and just like that, sprint finish, the first race is over. Matti Pikelny used everything he had in the last one to win it. He got the 30 points. We'll see if that's going to be the same case this time around. But when you do two zones back to back and you do the same 4 races as Homer is using his comeback kit further back, you start to become aware to some of these strategies. You start to become aware how to attack, where to look, because now with the Alison Kubota strategy on mountain bike by Jesper, you know that is the time to try and execute that flat tire power up. As you can see the blob on screen, Nigel Doyle is rocking the sweatband, rocking the yellow CCC kit. Usually yellow is the jersey of winners, and recently CCC have been doing that, but maybe we'll see if they'll change it out with a black kit anytime soon, because that is the McLaren, the one at the back of the racing. As we're on Frank, green CVR kit at the front, and now we enter the last lap of racing, and the blob is moving fast. Who will be the first one to launch an attack? Ben's on the front, 1,000 equalized watts. Ben has attempted this before. Ben and Nigel, they are teammates, and they are attacking. Matti Pikelny as well. Frank Garcia, 1,300 equalized watts. He is trying everything, and you can see him pushing on through. 20-10-0. Frank Garcia got that one in the back, and celebration from the CVR captain with Matti Pikelny in second, Ben in third, and the Frank Garcia celebration coming on through. Tim fourth, Nigel fifth, Allison sixth, and here we've got the replay once more. It was Ben Shuilong who took up the sprint early. He's decided to leave the draft for some reason on the right and try and propel himself forward, but it was Frank Garcia on the inside using the draft. You can see him sprinting on through, taking off 1, 2, 3, and as the finish line is coming up after this bend, he got enough separation as he kept sprinting, and looking back, there was no one there as he takes the win on Aqua Velo. And then you have the celebration. Happy with that one is Frank Garcia as he does the celebration his avatar does in the game. Congratulations, Frank. That was a long-range attack. Was that pure willpower in the end, or was that a cunning strategy that won you that stage?
Maybe a little bit of both, but I think more strategy. I knew I had that much of a sprint in me, and people have been playing it a little easy towards the end, waiting for someone to do the effort instead. Just caught them napping a little bit, and I think because of the blob effect, people kind of wait for someone else to go so they can get carried along. That worked to my advantage.
It's great to see the evolution of no-skill events as well. In the past, you weren't ever really able to see someone attack away, so it's good to see people with courage like Frank to attack. Last time on Cityscape New York, you and Casey found yourself in a 2-man breakaway. Do you think we'll see more of the same in this one, Frank, or will it be more of a larger group taking it to the line?
We're just going to leave everybody else behind. This is my preferred zone. So I was just warming up in the last zone, and we'll show them how to lay down some rubber in this zone.
That is a danger warning to everybody else. Frank, who do you think is your biggest competitor? Who is your biggest threat for taking the Omnium here in your preferred zone?
Pretty strong zone, looking around. And so really everybody who's in, other than maybe Nigel, because he blocks a lot. So that's an inside joke that Nigel will get for sure. But no, looks like pretty much, Monty's here, Ben's here, Tim's here, Casey's here. They've all won Omniums. Homer's out there, and he's able to lay down some rubber as well. So we'll just see who wants to, hang it all out there and see how fast they can go in New York. If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere, right?
Love that. Speaking of preferred zones, we've got Matti Pikelny. This is also his preferred zone of racing. Last time around, Matti, you were within 1 second of the winning group before they disappeared up the road, joined by your young one. Is that the cheerleading squad, Matti?
This is the youngest member of Team Cognition. Say hi, Nathan.
Hello.
We're excited to race
meet you, Nathan.
Cityscape New York, and he's gonna potentially help me out with some steering and power-ups. It's a family affair here on Team Cognition.
Oh, I get flashbacks to the last time we saw help from a helper on Saturn. Absolutely lovely, Matti. We need to get a Cognition t-shirt out to the youngest member so he can get matching streaming points as well. So good luck to the Pikelny family as you got Nathan. I gotta say, I really love seeing when we do these streams. You never get two that are the same. Last time we saw Matti get help from a family member, it was on Saturn, and I was commentating that race as well, and that was absolutely brilliant. As all I could hear is, Matti, oh, Dad, is it now? I should use it now, and it was like so good. CVRcade is the game for the entire family. As you have power-ups, you have equalization. It is just so fun to witness. But Cityscape New York, here we go. If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. As Frank Garcia, Razor's Edge, Win That is back. This is the trademark move. By now, everyone has come to expect that you either make the train or you are not on it at all. But Frank would have wished to have some support here. He is all alone early on. Sharon Hackathorn in second, Muddy in third, Casey, Quantum Shift as well. Tim's down here. Tim almost succeeded in the last race by staying with a bot. He was in contention, and it'll be interesting to see if he opts to do the same thing here. As he is further down, he's got Homer on the left, and he is riding away with Homer further down. Ben Shuilong in seventh with his teammate Nigel Doyle, the yellow jerseys of CCC. One of the first, actually I think the first community-created team, Cognition to be the second. Good to see them getting involved in all matches as they are now riding along. This is Nigel's preferred zone, so we'll see if they will try and get him further up as he starts with a 16-point cushion. But Matti on the screen with Neil Stewart. Frank 10 seconds up the road. He's become more and more of a time trialist as he races on CVRcade, understanding his physiology, understanding his limits. As Nigel, wind at his back, further back into the headwind, standing up. You can see the wind blowing on his jersey, the wind blowing in the game, and he is attempting to make it up to the front. But Frank getting the bonus points for streaming in, for audio, for matching jersey, and for racing his preferred zone, winning the first race, and now in prime position to take this second one. But there is enough members further down that they're going to want to try and create a unison further down here to try and get the pace up and running. As Neil Stewart, 199 equalized heart rate. He is definitely working hard here through the roof. Ben Shuilong in sixth. Matti is leading the chase on the front. Probably, hopefully, hoping that Casey opts to take turns with him before they were on Temple Run. We saw 4 laps of Temple Run where Matti and Casey, they opted to work together. Will they do it again? That is the question as Casey moves over, and they've got Well, the thing is, this time, CCC have got numbers. Ben uses Racer's Edge and Wind at his back near Monument Hall as he's trying to get back up to that front group. He's just dangling on, but if he can get back up there, they would expect him to take the reins at the front because they have numbers here. And Frank, 13 seconds up the road, he is not going to let go. He knows that he doesn't have to sprint against anyone if he goes with this one. But Matti accelerating on the left. Nigel too here with his quantum shift. So is this the beginning of the union? 365 on the front, and he now moves over. As this will be an interesting group to keep an eye out. Further down, Tim, Allison choosing once more to stick with the butts. It almost worked out for Tim in the previous race. He was in a position, and news alert, breaking news. The headband has come off. The hair has been unleashed. Can't tell. Is that Tim Fulford? Can't tell without the headband, but the hair is rocking around. So you can tell which direction the wind is coming from. It's coming from that southern westerly wind hitting him like Hurricane Cade usually does. Matti, again, in a bit of a trouble here is Nigel putting up the pace with Casey. You look further down, Allison, Tim, further down. We're looking at the instant replay here as they are comfortable in that chasing group. But Nigel seems to be a bit careful about the gap Frank has accumulated on the front. So Nigel chasing down Frank. Maybe a bit upset by Frank's comment earlier. Will not let him get up the road, saying, nah, you get back here. I think Nigel is mouthing no way. He's saying, I'm coming for you, Frank, as he's trying to catch up now. 8 seconds between them. Casey, though, is getting a comfortable ride here as he's sitting in the draft, and Nigel's riding Matti off the wheel, and Casey is saying move over to try and get more of a draft. There should be, for the engineers of K, there really should be proximity audio, because imagine the words they have to say as they are like yelling at each other. Come on, what are you doing? Take a turn. Oh, you slacker. And other not so nice words. As we see Matti and out of shot, you've got young Nathan helping out with the lane change. A superstar Nathan Pikelny helping out in the cognition camp with the sports directive duties. Frank, though, 8 seconds up the road. The gap is coming down. He's crossing the first of 3 laps. He is not going to give up, though, because we've seen this before. Frank was so close on Rocky Mountains once. The gap was down to 2 seconds, and then at the end, it went out to like 20 seconds. So going from 2 seconds and saying, I'm going to break their spirits. I'm going to keep the pace up. I'm going to keep it as high as possible. And when they think they've got me, that's when I'm going to give it up a gear more. As you see Nigel on the screen, he is continuing on the front. And you're going to start to wonder if Nigel, this is his preferred zone. So Frank and Nigel and Matti, top 3 on the podium right now. As you see on the scoreboard, they're all racing their preferred zones. They're all getting maximum streaming points. You start to wonder, though, is Nigel more worried about catching Frank than winning the Omnium, as he's doing a lot of the work on the front. And Ben Shuilong, the teammate, is the casualty. So the team strategies here being shown with Ben being dropped while Nigel is doing the pacing. Can't quite tell if Movistar of New or CCC is putting down some new strategies. So could be some miscommunication between them as Nigel, Matti moving up as well. Gap is 8 seconds. In this race, you've seen it once before in Zone K, you get 2 racer's edges, 2 wind at your backs, and 2 quantum shifts. Those wind at your backs, if you can use them where it's a headwind, you turn that headwind into a tailwind. The wind at your back negates that headwind and turns it into a tailwind. So it can be a double whammy if used correctly, especially when you pair it with a racer's edge. Now, in the previous zone, it was just an all-out battle royale from the gate. You saw power-ups being popped just at the free, as you can see, as they attacked earlier on, and they chose to attack away with all their power-ups and coming into the finish line. Casey had none left. Casey sitting up there, he's not entirely happy about what's happening. It looks to be, let's see if we can turn on Casey's audio here to hear what he is saying, Victor, as we've got Casey sitting in. Casey, I think we can hear you. What's happening?
Broke my bike.
You broke your bike.
My chain ring goes like this now. It's been cracking though. It's been popping this whole race, and it finally started wobbling, and I dropped the chain. So I don't know if I broke a bottom bracket or a chain or something.
See, now, as the king of excuses, we're going to need proof. Otherwise, it sounds like you were just ridden off the wheel and came up with an excuse.
Yeah. I'll have to send you a picture of it. But yeah, she's pretty wobbly. I'm not sure what it is yet. I think it's the bottom bracket. I've got new ceramic bearings in here, and they might be bad. So.
Well, Casey, it's a shame to see you go, but hopefully you can get that fixed as we head into the bracketed session after. This is week 3 of the open session. We got week 4 next week. Then after that, we start the bracketed session where whoever finishes at the top of that bracketed session will take home $3,000 of dough. That's a lot of money, but with Casey Shum out of that group, Ben Shuilong being distanced too, that means this group has less of a likelihood of catching Frank. And that's why Frank is going on like he is at the front. You never know when somebody's about to break their bike. You never know when somebody's about to blow up and let go of the group. But we look at the butts. And they're only 20 seconds down. Tim almost caught Marty and Rick last time, and I guarantee you this, he won't make the same mistake twice. He won't wait so long. And I think, as you can see, Homer, Allison sitting here as Tim just letting go of Homer, forcing Homer to do a bit of an acceleration. Tim is the dark horse. Despite being in 6th, despite being this far down, he's got all his power-ups remaining, and I think he may nail the timing. But at the front, we got Nigel, you got Marty. Allison is also in that secondary group. You got Nigel, you've got Mutty in the chasing group. They're now trading turns. But with the excursion of Ben, with the loss of Casey, I'm not sure these two have the firepower left to light up 4th of July. So we'll see if they can head out and restock as Mutty sits in. I think Nigel wanted Mutty to come on through there. But now the two of them is changing turns. Mutty uses wind at his back. He comes on through, and Nigel slots in. And Ben uses his power-ups as well in a last-ditch effort. You look at Mutty. This is an all-or-nothing play to get across to Frank Garcia. But if I'm Frank right now, I'm thinking, okay, if he gets across, I'm going to attack the moment he gets on my wheel. Racer's edge. We're coming to the end of the 2nd lap now. Penultimate lap coming to a close as we hear the bells. Last lap up. Mutty crosses the line. He can see Frank Garcia, but it cost every single one of his power-ups. And now Frank increases the pace. 700 equalized watts. He will not let go. He's going to make Mutty work for this one. And you can see the visual. Oh, he uses quantum shift here. I think that is a sign of wanting to work together. But it could be that Frank opting not to. So he faces through Frank. And this means that if Frank wants to attack, he needs to come on through. And Mutty I think he's trying to earn his right to be in this group at the front. He is going on through Frank in 2nd wheel. And Nigel and Ben, the two CCC riders. Oh, can they line up? Can they link up now? Because Tim is 20 seconds back with Homer and Allison. Homer as well in the CCC kit. He could come up and be a big help, but the two CCC riders definitely looking slightly fatigued as they have been distanced. Nigel grinding away. He said he was coming for Frank, but Frank is still yet to see the mail delivered as we watch Nigel Doyle get hydrated. He can see them up the road. Ben Shuilong also looking at the screen, just looking at those distance meters going, come on, could you just go away already? Now, Homer takes the front in the chasing group. Homer could potentially slow this down. Now, if Homer wanted to, he could slide over and break it down. But meanwhile, at the front, Nigel Doyle throwing caution into the wind. Wind at back and Racer's edge have been popped in tandem. 7 seconds up the road. Mutty was able to bridge the gap. 6 seconds, 5 seconds, but he's got to stay on it. The speed is coming down now. That first salvo of power-ups being used, he can see them. He needs to either use his second salvo if he's got anything left, or he's got to sprint with all his heart. When you look at the scoreboard, Mutty and Frank take up 1st and 2nd. Then there is a significant gap down to Nigel, but with the mountain bike by Jesper coming up after this, anything can happen. Frank has already won this race once, and he looks poised to take it once more. Nigel is third, Motti out in the front as well. So you watch the race unfold. They come through Monument Hall once more, and Motti Pikelny and Frank Garcia have left Nigel. He's 5 seconds off the back. He is not giving up just yet, but he needs a second sprint. The gap is 4 seconds, and Motti's pace isn't quick enough. 3 seconds. Nigel Doyle could get back in, and we saw this happen in Zone T on Thursday. He got back, and Motti attacks. He does not want him back, but further back, Tim Fulford. This is it. This is the move. This is what we've been waiting for. A quantum shift, razor's edge, wind at his back, the grimace. He can see Ben Shuilong, first CCC rider, as they pass Monument Hall. First one down, 20 seconds up to Nigel. It could be too little too late as he now catches the draft. Can he go once more? Homer Thompson is there. Allison is there. Will Ben block the road for his fellow Brit Spitfire Tim? No, he chooses to stay to the left and then slots onto the wheel. Tim still has more power-ups available. Meanwhile, on the front, Frank Garcia has taken up the lead. He does not want the pace to come down because that would mean that Nigel Doyle and Tim Fulford have an opportunity to get back. 1 kilometer to go. They take a left, they take a right, and then they got a straightaway, 2 more rights, and that is it. You can see the freeze frame. You can see the camera standing still. Allison at the back using her power-ups as well. She wants to bridge across as Tim is laying down the herd. 22 seconds is the gap. I think once more he's fighting for fourth. But while that's happening, the fight for first, the track sprint finish. Motti goes 900 equalized watts, 700 meters to go. This is so far out, and Motti Pikelny does not want to take Frank in a head-to-head sprint finish, so he is going so far out, and you can see the blood rising to his head. He's turning red like a tomato. Can he squeeze that and make juice? We'll see. 500 meters to go. Frank, Motti is still going. Frank uses quantum shift, and if he faces through Motti, that could be game over, and it looks to be so. Motti's watts have come down, and 300 meters to go. Frank will come on through, and Nigel Doyle, while all that is happening, has closed the gap to 2 seconds. He can see Motti. Motti went far. Frank is gonna take the victory on the front. 50 meters to go for him. But meanwhile, Motti, Nigel, does Nigel have anything left? Frank is happy with that one. Motti, Nigel uses quantum shift. Oh, too little, too late. Motti Pikelny takes second. Tim sprinting away. He's got to beat Homer Thompson to the line here. Homer hot on his heels, but it'll be Tim Fulford who will be crowned the winner of the second group further down. He's got a left-hand turn left, and that is it. But what an absolutely fantastic race. For the second time today, Cityscape New York delivers. Ben will be sixth as he looks to be drained, as Allison Kubota potentially could come on through if he doesn't keep an eye on the chasing group. But that is all she rode. A broken bike, a broken rider in Ben and Nigel. Several things happened here as we get ready for the next race on what's the next? There's mountain bike by Jesper. I'm not being taken there just yet, but we'll see if that happens in a second. So that is Cityscape New York. Great racing from all the races. I mean, it's fantastic to watch the tour breakaways, the power-ups, and everyone just trying to do their best, their ability. But Frank wins. That is a big celebration from him as the secondary riders cross over the line next. Now, let's hear from Frank, because 2 wins in a row like that, that is impressive. Congratulations, Frank. Which one was tougher, Zone K or Zone L Cityscape?
Oh, this one was, nobody came with me, and then they tried to chase, and so I tried to stay away. Oof, I'm cooked. And so, that's about all I have to say.
Now, on our point of view, it doesn't look like I'm being taken just yet to the mountain bike course by Jesper. Have you been brought there yet, Frank?
I have not. It looks like we now have a bug. It looks like we're not going to the next event yet.
Well, what that means
so
is
everybody
load
to
up.
Go back to their home world or something. Yeah.
Yeah, load up homeworld, try again. Otherwise, you can always do 2 more laps of Cityscape New York if that's what you fancy. Oh goodness, try and describe as a seasoned racer, Frank, being in that breakaway. Does that bring back memories for you of like real outside racing?
No. I didn't get to be a good time trialist until, well, it's partly equalization, right? So I know I can stay away. I mean, when I raced for real, I was a sprinter and not a time trialist. So if I went off the front, which I tried every now and then, people would just eventually reel me back in because of the power. But here, I know it's about effort. It's about how much heart you have. It's about how deep you want to go. And, I can go pretty deep. And so I know I can stay away potentially. Didn't stay away all the way there. Monty got back. Great effort. But I knew he was pretty cooked. And he had to be making tough tactical decisions. Did he want to wait for Nigel to come back and maybe end up third? Did he want me to ride his wheel all the way? I pulled a little bit, but basically saved it for the sprint. He went way, way early, and I knew as long as I could hold his wheel that it was all she wrote, because I just quantum shift through him and hit the finish line before him.
Well, it was a great race, and we have Matti also in the broadcast as we watch the highlights. I'd love to get his take, because Matti, that looks so tough. You went with 700 meters to go. What was your train of thought as you chose that was the moment to try and strike Frank Garcia?
Oh, I didn't want to try a head-to-head sprint with him, and I figured if I put it all on the line, maybe I could outdo him with 1 minute power, but he held my wheel and broke me. So it was after I decided to do a little bit more pulling, because I didn't want it to come down to a 3-up sprint, because there was a good chance with Nigel being fresher than both of us that I could have taken third rather than second. So we kept the distance, and then about a kilometer to go, I decided that I probably wasn't going to win a head-to-head sprint with Frank. So I tried from like 0.7 kilometers out, and he held my wheel, and pretty happy with second. That was a real tough race. Nigel was putting on a ton of pressure at the end, and I had almost nothing left. I probably only finished a second ahead of him at the end of it. So really good racing, and there was pressure behind him too from Tim and Allison. It's a lot of fun. Exhausting, but a lot of fun.
It was a really good race, but it also saw Casey Shum break his bike. Was there a slight sliver of you that went, oh, yes, don't have to deal with him for this one? Or was it a bit of, oh, he broke his bike?
Oh, no, I was so upset, because he was part of the plan for how we were going to reel back in Frank and potentially pass him. With me and Nigel and Casey and potentially Ben, Frank was going to be tired when we caught him. But we slowed when Casey fell off, and it allowed Frank to recover a little bit, brought his speed down from about 42 to 40 kilometers an hour. And when I caught, he had enough to stay with me, or to try to attack again. So I was really disappointed and felt bad, because Casey is a really great competitor to race with and against, and it will be less fun without him in these next events.
Unfortunately, yes, Casey will be looking to fix his bike. Thank you, Matti. And as the team looks at it this time, it does look like it's an engineering bug. Unfortunately, as we're not being taken to the third stage here on Mountain Bike by Jesper, where you are watching the highlights of. So while they investigate what the issue at hand is, we keep a warm and hot here in the broadcasting studio. It's been such a shame, because the racing today has been phenomenal as always. This is by far one of my favorite sports to watch. I mean, Sunday, my highlights are the NFL, but Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, it is CVRcade World Cup all the way. The tears, the joy, the laughs, and the different storylines that get unfolded. Definitely a must watch every week and every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday as you watch. There's the Allison, there's the power-ups being used, the flat tires on the previous race, just like on command, the power-ups are being popped as we can see what is happening, and we await further notice from the team behind the scenes as we're still watching the highlights of Zone E this morning. So there's different time zones. If this one doesn't suit you, then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we've got Zone T, which is like 3 a.m. in the morning for UK. That is 7 p.m. for the West Coast, and like 10 p.m. for the East Coast. So if you want to get racing and you want a time zone that suits you better, those are available. Meanwhile, Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays, we got these two zones, K and L. And also on Saturdays, we've got Zone E, which is the midday zone that sees several great racers. If you are enjoying this broadcast until this point, we've got great broadcast both on demand and live. Click that follow button down below. If you want to be interested, if you're interested in CVRcade World Cup and CVRcade, you can go to the website CVRcade.com and get all the information there. But as we await further notice, we can just run through all the highlights so far of the day, because there's been a lot of good highlights. We've had 3 zones going underway, and this is zone, I'm not quite sure which zone this is, as they're all starting to blend together as we watch. I think this is Zone K with Tim trying to use Comeback Kit. So this is the first of the 2 zones we saw today. Zone K, Cognition, Matti Pikelny attacking earlier on. I do remind you that we're waiting for official word from the team about what's going to happen in regards to the Zone L here and further racing today, as now we head on to Cityscape New York for the second race in Zone K, as we watch Frank and Matti on the front here. Early attacks, Casey Shum also in there, as you can see him pacing away. He was going to attack with Frank. Everyone using their power-ups very early on in that one. We didn't see a similar race in Cityscape New York. Despite the outcome being strangely similar, it was a different path we took to get there, as Frank on the front both times. Quantum Shift from Matti Pikelny being used here, as you can see what is happening. Casey Shum just texted me saying he's back, so he must have fixed his bike. That is a very rather quick fixing of mechanicals. So if any professional teams out there need a mechanic, Casey Shum, not only a great CVRcade racer, but he can fix a mechanical in an instance. As you watch him there, you've got the international sign of a teamwork agreement between Casey Shum and Frank Garcia as they work together on Cityscape New York. Great racing from the 2 of them, and that teamwork came to an end at the back here as they were going to sprint forward. Casey saying, no, I don't have any more power-ups left at that moment in time. Frank still had a Quantum Shift left, and when it came to the sprint, he used it. He went straight through Casey. Casey just did not have what it took to react to that move in the end, as Frank ends up winning a heads-up sprint. Casey, not for the lack of trying, though. He gave that everything coming into the corner, sprinting. You can see the facial reaction. Gotta love those sprints, because you just turn yourself inside out. Most of the time, you close your eyes. Then mountain bike by Jesper. Alison Kubota's attempted flat tire power-ups. She slams into the back of Jeff Rooney, almost executed right as Frank went out to an early lead. Then Tim and Frank side by side crossing the line here on one of the earlier laps, as Allison riding with the butts coming up to the aptly named Peter Kastrup corner. Mountain bike by Jess, but this is a course that's brilliant to race, brilliant to watch, and brilliant to ride. It's got lanes with obstacles, it's got gradients, it's got hills, it's got a beautiful lake in the middle, so you may be not confused, but you may be distracted by the great scenery and the great graphics around you as we hit the incline. Casey, I believe, pops his power up here and attacks away. So that's Tim with his power plant power up attacking away, and he would eventually go on to win mountain bike by Jesper. And we were setting up for a brilliant finale on Dust Bowl Crit, but unfortunately we were only gifted 1 lap of Dust Bowl Crit, as here Casey, he's got his camping bike, so might be his traveling bike he's got on there, as Tim wins mountain bike by Jesper. Coming into Dust Bowl Crit, the chips were on the table, the cards were shown, and the high stakes racing were coming to an end. Who was holding aces? Who was holding deuces? Well, Matti Pikelny was holding deuces, but he was definitely trying to bluff his way with kings. It wasn't to be the case, as you can watch Casey come on through, and further back, Tim and Matti just bringing it to the limit and just overcooking it. Tim smiling, knowing the mistake he made. Then further in, it was Frank and Casey at the front. They were coming into the corner here side by side, and they were going to be fighting it out as Frank crashes down overlapping the wheels, but he gets saved in the end. Never had he ever been so happy to crash, the words from Frank Garcia. So we headed on to Aqua Velo for Zone L. This is where it was early attack from Ben Shuey. On some reason, opted to leave the draft and attack, but as he attacked, he only went one way, and he went back in the draft like, let me in, let me in. Well, the door was definitely not being held on that one, as Frank tacked on through, takes that one, mix of brilliance and willpower to take the victory on Aqua Velo. Next race coming up was Cityscape New York once more. So now I'm hearing news from the team that we're going to have to end the Zone L. So if you come out to race, now this is waiting to be confirmed, but I am hearing news from the team that we'll have to end the racing here, and we'll look at the first two races to determine the winner here of Zone L. So we do apologize for the technical inconvenience, but such is the name of the game. We are still in beta, and we're going to have more racing on Tuesday, more racing on Thursday. Yes, Casey here realizing he broke his bike, looked down and just thought, oh, not again. Asked to be on audio, and that's when he is now, again, this is why I said wait to be confirmed. If you are a racer, hold on. There's now being news that we are creating a Dust Bowl crit, I think we're going to go right on through, skip Mountain Bike by Jesper, and create 5 laps of Dust Bowl crit. How the scoring is going to pan out, that will await team from the confirmation from the team. But if you're racing and you got ready, you're up early, you're up late, you set your date, we're going to probably have a race, I would imagine, as they looks like they're setting up. So keep an eye out. I will let you know. Don't go anywhere just yet. Don't hang up the towel. Maybe refill up your water bottle. Put some electrolytes in there. As I'm hearing now confirmation that 41 minutes after the hour, so in 6 minutes from now, we will head to Dust Bowl crit. So we're going to unfortunately skip Mountain Bike by Jesper, but we're going to have the finale we've all been waiting for. Dust Bowl crit has got all the things going for it. Dust Bowl crit coming up after this. So what you do is you go to event. I'll let you know once it's created, and then you can sign up. I'll let you know the name of it, but it's going to start 5 minutes from now, 41 minutes past the hour. If you've been watching on Mixer and you're enjoying this and you're joining us for the second hour here, click that follow button down below to never miss out on another stream as we get ready. You'll look at the events. I'm keeping an eye out for you guys to make sure that we don't miss it. And if the team could give me a confirmation text just when it's being scheduled and what the name is, so I can relay that message to the rest of the squad as we watch the highlights of the previous race, Cityscape New York. I think everybody's going to be very, very amped up for this last race. All or nothing. They've been disappointed somewhat with the previous Dust Bowl experience, and now they're going to want to win this next one. My name is Jesper Anker, and as always here on our CVR World Cup Mixer page, I guide you through all the action, but I don't without these racers, you get to see me, you get to hear me, but the real superstars of the show are the streamers. Like Mati today, always love when he comes on the broadcast. Frank Garcia, always on the broadcast. Usually Kayla is here. Ben, Tim, Nigel, Allison, Casey, Homer, Vanessa, Sharon, Neil, the rest guys, Seth, Peter. There are definitely some riders I'm missing. Sadeo, Timothy, Quentin. They make the broadcast. And if you want to know more about them, you go over to CVRcade Riders on Facebook. That is the group to be at. As I can see, we're joining it. The race has been set up. It's called CVC Week 3 L Race 5. It starts in 3.5 minutes. So here's your warning. If you are racing and you are listening to the broadcast, you can join this race. It's in events. It's called CWC Week 3L Race 5. I'll repeat again, for those racing and listening in, the racing is not over. We've got race 5 coming up now. CVC Week 3L. It's the first you see when you go to the event screen. Get in, get involved. But I do believe we have Casey here. And if he's ready for a quick word, I'd love to hear just exactly how you get ready to go again. So what is happening in the Casey Shum camp?
I had my other bike out in the hallway getting ready for a camping trip next weekend. So I'm on my cyclocross bike. I just took my sleeping bag and my pillow and throw all that stuff to the side, and we're gonna race.
Well, at least you're prepared. If you do crash, you have a blanket and a pillow to sit by the side and set up a campfire. But Casey, coming into this one, you were so amply clever enough to see that it was 1 out of 1. I see it's 1 out of 5 this time, so there's no shenanigans here. 5 laps of Dust Bowl crit. How will this race pan out, do you think?
This one will be interesting because it's when do you use the power ups and go for a gap, and I think somebody's going to win this kind of by themselves or maybe a pair, but it's when do you make the move? Does the early move stay or do they get reeled back in? I see there's no bots, so that makes a difference too.
It does. It opens up different lanes and makes it easier to come around. But Casey, best of luck in this one. Let's get the final words from the Cognition camp and the 2-up team of Nathan and Matti. Matti, that last race looked like it hurt. You're coming into this. How would you rate your sports director's skills from 1 to 10?
We'll see at the end of this race. This is going to be fun. I'm glad that we were able to put something together this quickly. Again, Ben made this course, and we're going to race him on it. So not only is that cool, but I think it's going to be hard. So I'm excited. It's one of my favorite courses in game. Got a teammate here, and the standings were close at the end of the last race, and I think this is going to be hard fought, and I think a lot of people are going to come out of the gate really quickly. We had a good recovery. We're going to have some fresh legs and some high speeds and some crashing. It's going to be fun.
Oh, we'll see. We'll see, Matti. Best of luck. Keep the rubber side down for this one. 35 seconds to go. Without further ado, we've taken out the butts. Ben Schuil on getting ready, ordering that pepperoni pizza, as Beth York would say. See if Domino's does a Saturday delivery. But it's been good to watch everyone race. Here are the rock stars. If you want to get more information, you can catch them on CVRcade Riders Forum. My name has been Jesper Anker, and if you're enjoying the CVR World Cup Mixer page, there's a follow button down below. We gained a few earlier today in Sony, and let's get some more in here today. We're getting towards 7,000 followers, and now one last race left. Will Frank Garcia go guns blazing out of the gate? No. You get 3 power-ups, but only 1 of each. 1 weightlifter, 1 racer's edge, 1 inertia. You heard Casey say it's going to be interesting to see when they decide to use it. Frank and Casey, 1 and 2. Allison in there. She's got a chance to freshen up the legs as well, as Tim is in on a keyboard for this one. So he is racing further down, making up the back troop with Homer Thompson. So it is a 7-man race, 8-man race in here now for the last race, as Frank, oh, he will be regretting that one. It looks like he just came in a bit too hot, overlapped the wheels, and he's going to have to make it up from the back, but it's still very early on in the race. 5 laps. Other riders can make mistakes, but that one will be nagging him, as Nigel uses racer's edge and weightlifted very early on here to try and get an initial advantage. Comes over the top, and he is now going to go on through. Allison Kubota is in there as well. We've got the wind, but Matti has got a teammate in there in Allison. Casey rather alone. Ben has got Homer, but he's 3 seconds back, and Nigel up the road. This is where Matti crashed last time around. Let's see. Will the same thing happen this time? He slows down to 33 kilometers an hour and comes on through safely. Allison as well on his wheel. The 2 blue jerseys sitting in there comfortably. Casey on his bike-packing bike, as he had to get all the equipment off his bike, put it on there, but he did not want to miss out here on the last race of the evening. Nigel using inertia very early on here, 46 kilometers an hour. He just wants that initial gap, and I think Frank is doing the same thing. Frank uses a racer's edge, weightlifted. Oh, is he going to hit Homer? Oh, he almost slams into the back of Homer, but Homer stays there. Frank at 64 k's an hour, but he's got to be ready to be on the brakes. He's got to slam into the back of somebody. Matti does not see Frank Garcia. Frank came by like a wrecking ball. SpaceX mission, the Falcon X, 64 kilometers an hour, rocket boosters for days. And Frank Garcia, There's a reason why you check your mirrors. Matti unfortunately gets caught up. You could see the smile on his face, but Frank is back in the action. I've seen two riders hit 64 k's an hour, Allison Kubota and Frank Garcia. Excellent attacking. I thought he would have needed to hit the back of somebody to brake before the corner, but it timed in such a way that he was able to slam on the brakes just before the corner. But 10-second lead, Nigel Doyle, to the edge there, riding on the limit as he gets on through, and he's got a gap of 12 seconds. Fresh legs, didn't race the third race. Now he is ready to go. Frank's on through as well. You can see the camera being paused. We wait for the chasing groups. You watch the start-finish banner. You've got this much of a gap. The clock is still ticking. 3, 2, 1. There is Frank. There's Casey. There is Ben Shuilong. And Matti Pikelny now uses Racer's Edge into the headwind to try and get that gap closer to home, as Allison is down in 6th, Homer in 7th, Vanessa in 8th. And they now have a collective group chasing down Nigel Doyle. This is not a situation that Nigel often finds himself in. 13 seconds up the road, and we watch now as they play it through to the end. 35 k's an hour. Nigel really taking these corners, as you can see Allison on the screen. Matti down in 5th. He's 4 seconds up. He's making up the gap now on these secondary positions, and I think on this incline, he's going to give it everything to try and close the gap. 5 kilometers is a long, 5 laps is a very long way, and 6.8 kilometers to go. Anything can happen. We've seen Timothy Tamont in the previous zone E. He ran out of energy. We've seen riders make mistakes when they get far into the racing and crash and overlap wheels and overcook corners, as Matti 4 seconds back. Ben is up there in the front. He is on the inside, coming in a bit hot, but safely. I think he was trying perhaps to catch Frank out there, but unsuccessful. He's still there. His teammate, though, Nigel Doyle, how about that? 14 seconds, 15 seconds. Every single power-up has been used by the Kiwi. So he has to commit to this 110%. And we're watching the CCC rider putting on a show here. But the question is, can he keep it up? This is not a situation he's used to finding himself in, as Matti uses inertia at 47 kilometers an hour. Allison tried to ramp up for an inertia, but she came through the corner, and before she could even use it, she slid out. Matti back with the front 4 here now, as he comes on through safely through the corner, and they are initiating their pursuit of Nigel Doyle. Frank in the 2nd place. He is leading the chase, 20 seconds out. 10 seconds out to Nigel Doyle with 5.9 kilometers to go. This will be very interesting, as Ben is getting a, relatively free ride. He does not have to do any of the pacing on the front, but staying with Casey, with Matti, with Frank. These are 3 of the CVRcade elite when it comes to racing. They are fierce competitors, and when you hear, well, you're writing your name into that same page in the book. Ben Shuilong getting up there, getting better and better at the racing, and now he's up here with the very best. Meanwhile, coming through to the corner, Matti and Frank side by side. That is a dangerous move, as Casey further back is just being distanced. He's got to be careful not to get dropped from this group, as that potentially could mean that he no longer has a draft and he gets dropped by this chasing quartet. Nigel Doyle, though, 14 seconds, 15 seconds, 180 equalized heart rate, still going. You can see him grinding away, slowing down here to 37.5 kilometers an hour, 38, 39 coming on through. He's pushing it to the limit. 5 kilometers to go. That's all that's remaining in the racing here tonight on the CVR World Cup page, in the CVRcade World Cup. 14 seconds. Matti Pikelny leading that chasing group, the blue colors of Team Cognition. Ben Shuilong, Casey Shum, Frank Garcia, Matti, all up here. As they break, they come through and they sprint again. This is where they gain the difference. Ben Shuilong on the back in the yellow jersey. He too is coming on through, but side by side. Look at that as a picture. On the right, Frank. In the middle, Casey. On the left, Matti Pikelny, as they are using the echelons in the pursuit of Operation Catch the Kiwi. Will they be successful? Did they bring a large enough net to try and bring him down? 17 seconds now. The gap is going in the wrong direction, but it's not for the lack of trying here for the chasing group. Motti finds himself in fourth. Casey on the screen now. You can see him searching for that draft as they hit the headwind section of the course. Once more, we go on to Motti. 5 laps in total. You got to be careful of crashing. But remember, Casey is loading it up. Is Casey loading up an inertia at this point? Racer's Edge, he gets ready. We look in anticipation. He does. He uses Racer's Edge and inertia. And this could be the gap. I was just about going to talk about the power-ups. Nigel has used all 3 of his. It helped create the separation he got. Frank used all 3 of his. Casey has used 2 of his. Motti also used 1 of his. So power-ups are no longer much of a consideration for the riders here with 4 kilometers to go. The gap is coming down, but not too much. Nigel, breakout performance here, fresh and ready to go as he is keeping that hungry pack of wolves at bay as Motti has been distanced. He's 2 seconds down on that Boulder Alley pavé. You can see him trying to accelerate, putting down the pressure, getting all the help from his little sports director by his side. We'll see if that will add an extra equalizer. Nigel crashed! Oh, Nigel pushing it to the limit. And he knows what he's done. That gap will now come down. This is probably the best place to crash because it's the lowest speed, but this opens the door. 6 seconds. Casey, Frank, they can see him up the road. 6 seconds makes the difference with 3.7 kilometers to go. I believe that's 2 laps of racing remaining left as they now set their sight. Will Motti Bikelny and Ben Shuilong be able to get back up to the group? That is the question. Motti is still fighting. 405 equalized watts, giving it everything here in the blue. Really having to dig deep to get back in and find that draft. And it's when you push it like this to the limit that you find yourself crashing over the edge. Frank and Casey side by side. Casey trying to force a mistake out of Frank, but not going to happen this time around as they can see the yellow jersey of Nigel Doyle up the road. Frank of Team CVR comfortably in his position. They hit the incline one more time here as the yellow jersey, Nigel Doyle, this time with inside, and that makes the world of difference as Casey and Ben both use their weightlifter power-ups. Casey needing that. There's not much left in the tank there. Almost just falling over the top of his bike as they are on the right side of the tracks once more. 5 seconds is the gap to Nigel Doyle. Everyone fairly without power-ups now as they come on through. Nigel, look at this. He's been on his own. He has been so brilliant, except that one crash. He lost 10 seconds in the blink of an eye, and with a lap and a half to go, we stop the camera. There's Frank. There's Casey. And then you can see the next rider come on through is Ben. Motti may have just blown a gasket as he's fighting to get back on. He has turned himself inside out, and the 2 chasers, former teammates, both wanting to win this one badly. Ben Shuilong uses his inertia over the top here at 42.5 kilometers an hour. He is only 4 seconds back, and he could potentially get back on terms. Meanwhile, Motti is letting go of the group, and that could be all she wrote for the Team Cognition team leader as he's finding himself distance and in a world of trouble here in the blue colors. On the right, he can see the group up the road. Nigel Doyle with 1 lap to go, coming through Boulder Alley. He will be joined by Casey Shum and Frank Garcia. Has he kept enough left? We saw it Zone T on Thursday. We saw Lewis. He was out there. He went on a solo breakaway on Rocky Mountains. The second he got caught, he was in trouble. That long solo effort, he got dropped off the back as quickly as you can say CVRcade, as Casey is the first one to make connection. Frank, 3rd place here. Nigel slowing down significantly as Frank, overlapping once more with Casey Shum. And that, and Motti! Motti just cannot catch a break. Motti Bikelny twice meets the acquaintance of Frank Garcia, and twice he's been asked to sit down at the dinner table. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like they had a plate for him today. As Motti Bikelny, I feel for him. That is just unfortunate. But Nigel, Casey, Ben up here. Casey has got a straggler with him. Ben Shuilong has raced this very smartly until this point, as he is now 4 seconds down. Casey knows the position he's in. If he closes the gap, I think he's saying bye. I think he just doesn't want to bring gap. Yeah, you can see the shake of the head. Doesn't want to bring back the gap. So Ben is now in an interesting position. Do you race for your teammate? Do you let Nigel win? Or are you interested in your solo victory as well? We get onto the incline. They can see Nigel up the road. Frank 3 seconds back despite the crash. He's got a chance. Casey now on the left. He is using this incline to make a difference. 3 seconds is up to Nigel. He is going for it here. He's distanced Ben. Ben is nowhere to be seen. 3 seconds back. That gap is no longer close enough to be draftable. Casey has got a chance. He moves to the right. He slows down 34, 31, and he can see Nigel Doyle. He's back on terms. He dropped off the straggler, and Ben not happy with that one. The shake of the head, the calm, composed, what have I done there? As Nigel, he's been solo from pretty much the first lap until this point, and he's still got a 2 second gap, but it's going to come down to the last kilometer of racing. Coming onto the climb, Nigel's got nothing left. Will it be the head shake at the end, or will he take the victory? Casey, hot on his heel. He's got that very iconic stance as he jumps on the bikes. He's ready for the spin class. Come on, left, right, you got it. Laying down the power. He catches his breath here. 40 kilometers an hour, still 2 seconds. He's got to try and unleash everything as he accelerates on through. But Nigel looks to be undefeated right here in the course. Breaking spirits left, right, and center. You stop the camera again, and there is Casey Shum coming on through Boulder Alley. Ben crashes again. Frank is 6 seconds down. Motti is further down as well. But we keep an eye. 4 seconds. It's going to come down to the sprint finish between Nigel and Casey. Whoever comes out of that last corner first has got the advantage. Casey trying once more. 700 equalized watts. Doesn't know if he's got anything left. 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second. Coming into the corner. Nigel overbraking. Seriously, 25. Casey waiting, and we watch the sprint. Nigel, Casey, Nigel in first. Casey in second. This is going to be a photo finish. But Nigel Doyle saying, oh my God. And he's so happy with that one. He had to find energy reserves from 20 years ago in his youth to use today. And that is a absolutely fantastic victory from Nigel Doyle. Frank third, Motti will be what could have been for the Cognition rider. Kudos, though. It's very well done. Thumbs up from him. Ben Shuilong, looks to be rather unhappy. Despite winning for Team CCC, I think there was more to be had for that one. But that is the finish. File Nigel Doyle's victory celebration in the bank of awesome clips produced by CVRcade Racing. Coming into the finish, he seriously overbraked in that one. He probably had 8 kilometers an hour more to go with, but being confident in the sprint, you can see him wind it up, just producing the power. Meanwhile, Casey throwing everything he's got. He's trying. He sits up, goes, nope, I don't have it. And the moment Nigel crosses that finish line, look at that celebration. So happy with it. Nigel, congratulations. Solo from lap 1. Did you mean to do that?
No, but I just thought, well, when's a good time to use the power-ups? And I thought, well, let's just throw them and see what happens. And it worked. Oh, but man, when I crashed on that hairpin, I thought, oh, mate, that's bloody race over. But I got back up there. Oh, very satisfying, that one.
I could tell that celebration looked like you'd been saving that one for a while. Kudos on that one.
Yeah, well, that was from last night. That was the All Blacks playing England. They kicked our butt.
Well, it's a good thing that esport can make up for real sport. But Nigel, you and Casey into the sprint finish. You break down to about 23 kilometers an hour. Was there ever a thought where you thought, oh, I've lost it. I'm going to lose it on the line here?
No, I didn't want to crash, so I overbraked. I thought I had enough time that I could take it easy and then just give it everything once I got around the corner. No, I didn't think he'd catch me. I
like the confidence, Nigel. What? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, he had to brake as well. So, no, I thought I was fine.
Love that. Well done, Nigel. Congratulations on your victory. Well deserved in the end. We've also got Casey on the line. Casey, that was a bit of a roller coaster of an affair for you. You almost caught back up. Talk me through how that race unfolded from your point of view.
Yeah, Nigel got off the front there early, and I had a couple of racers that I'm used to riding with, Marty and Frank there. So I was kind of working with them, but we had Ben too. And I used the power up, hoping one of them would come with me. And Frank did get up with me, but it seemed like maybe he faded a little bit or something happened there. Well, he wrecked. And that was Nigel actually kind of made that wreck happen. He overbraked. And I was on his wheel and slowed down to like 18. I changed lanes to go around Nigel in that tight corner. Frank came in a little hotter on the inside and then slid out into me. So that was kind of almost a brake check into that corner that caught Frank out. It's funny how that happens in slow motion in the game when you're watching it. But, then I just went. Then when I had Ben there with me late, I didn't think I had the legs to catch Nigel. And being out of it kind of for this Omnium anyway, I was kind of sitting up with Ben so Frank could catch Ben. And then I attacked Ben when Frank got close, and that ended up moving Frank up a spot too. And at the end, it's just going as hard as you can go and hoping Nigel makes a mistake. If I make it easy for him, he's not going to push himself. But keeping it within 1 or 2 seconds, you stay in their head and hope they make a mistake.
It was a great race all around. I'm glad we got to see 5 laps of Dust Bowl Crit. Thank you, Casey, for putting on a show. The final words, I think, should be from Marty Pikelny, because Marty, twice in that race, you were met with Frank Garcia. Oh, man, I so felt for you. Talk me through the first hill where Frank used his inertia and you crashed into him.
Oh, I was trying to block him. Yeah, that wasn't a mistake. He was going 64 kilometers an hour, and I thought, I can't have this. He's going off the front. I'm too tired. And I just misjudged the timing. I got the right lane, but I got there probably 10 milliseconds too late. It was a high risk move that I shouldn't have made, but I thought had it worked, it would have been worth it to see the look on Frank's face. But it went the other way. I was able to catch back up, and then right after Frank crashed, I took that turn pretty slow, but he rematerialized, and I should have moved around to the outside, but I didn't, and slid over a lane into his avatar and crashed again, and then really just couldn't catch back up. Thought I'd work with Ben, but then he had an inertia left and went. I managed to pass him as he was trying to catch, and he crashed on the final hill before the last 3 turns before the finish line. But it was a long race, and big congrats to Nigel. What he did was extremely hard to do. Really consistent racing. He had that one crash, came back, stayed confident, went through that last curve, knowing that he had enough to take it with the sprint against Casey, and it was a good choice. That corner can catch you, and if Casey or other racers were closing quicker and he overlapped, all that work could have been for nothing. So I think it was really well played, great strategy. Nigel practices the courses in the game a lot, and well-deserved victory. It was an impressive showing.
Last question, Marty. How does your schedule look for next week? Because we'd love to have you on for the Zone T's on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Will we see you back here in the CVRcade World Cup?
Yep, I will be back. Zone T. Kids will be asleep. Not a creature will be stirring except for me and the trainer and the sweat and the fans and the tears and the energy drinks and the bananas and the gels. And yeah, bring it on. This is so much fun. I can't wait.
Well, that is great to hear, Marty. Before we end the broadcast, we do have all the highlights that we can walk you through one last time. We did have some technical difficulties today, but nonetheless, you got some awesome racing on your hands. We had 2 zones here in the broadcast tonight. We had Zone K and Zone L, 4 races, Aquavello, and we finished off with Dust Bowl Crit, with in between Cityscape and Mountain Bike by Jesper. Matti Pikelny here winning Aquavello the first time around, Zone K. Even though Casey Shum tried to use the comeback kit, it was too little too late. Much fresher Matti Pikelny than we just witnessed in the interview, ready to go and winning stage 1. And then we headed on to the second race in Zone K, Cityscape New York. Quickly becoming one of my favorite races to watch because the strategies, the dynamics, the breakaways, do I chase, do I not chase, the long straightaways, you can see riders up the road, and it makes all the difference. As in when you choose to work together, you can get a significant gap, but when you start cat and mousing, it comes down to your individual performance. Have you got the legs? Have you got the brains? Have you got the usage of the power-ups to sustain a gap? We saw Nigel do it in Dust Bowl Crit at the very end, so it is possible, but it is often very, very difficult to sustain until the end. Casey, Frank, and Matti put on a great show with Rick Woods as well here in Cityscape New York. Allison Kubota, Tim Fulford opting to stay with the butts. As you can see, Casey very lively on the broadcast today, and it's always great to have Casey Shum on the broadcast. He brings 100% effort every single time he's racing it here on Mixer, as we can watch the penultimate lap with them crossing over the line. Casey saying, I ain't got no power-ups left. Later on, he say, I ain't got no bike left, until he found his camping bike. And then Frank chose to sprint away. Quantum Shift being popped here into the very finishing line, attacking through Casey Shum. And with 300 meters to go, I asked him, was that maybe a bit long? Did you ever think Casey was going to catch up? And he said, nah, I knew what I had in me. I had that sprint in me. And he definitely did. See, he put Casey into the hurt locker. And then Frank's celebration, you know what that looks like by now. It's Mountain Bike by Jesper. It's a tricky one with the wind. And today we added the flat tire power-up. It really changes the dynamic on the course. And it was executed to perfection by some of the racers. Tim used it to get a gap earlier on the day. We saw Alison Kubota trademark that move as she used it to beat over the Cycling Hub boys, Tim and Timothy. Tim taking that page out of her book as Matti not happy with his performance on Mountain Bike by Jesper. Casey, Frank, and Tim making up the front group as Alison takes a tumble here, crashing into Frank and Tim, trying to get on the wheel, but just too early, moving in the inside lanes. Here we've got Tim Fulford in a second, using power plant power up. The second somebody uses a flat tire, he's on it and he's ready to go. He wins the second race in Zone K. That is on Mountain Bike by Jesper, followed by a hungry Rick Woods. But it was going to be Tim Fulford undisputed on the front, taking the victory on the third race in Zone K, winning that one for Team Cycling Hub, as he still had his headband on at that point in the racing. Fourth race, unfortunately, we only got one lap of this, but it was an action-packed one lap. Matti Pikelny on the broadcast, as you can see, rocking and racing it. Rick Woods using inertia at very low speed took him out of the race, as he subsequently chose to crash afterwards. Speaking of crashing, Tim and Matti both at the exact same time overcooking the corner. And then further into the racing, it was a close finish between Frank Garcia and Casey Shum, as Frank just overlaps the wheels with Casey into the sprint, and Casey takes the win. Then Zone L came up, and it was Aquavello. Here, it was another case of who was going to go long, who was going to use the comeback kit. Ben opting to go right, thinking it's a good idea. He very quickly opted to go back inside to the left. The fire was still lit, but at that point, it was too little too late, running out of firewood. Frank Garcia attacked off the front, catching everyone else napping, and he wins the race with his celebration. Cityscape New York once more, as we get ready for blood, sweat, tears, suffering, wind, power-ups, physical equalized racing at its finest. Frank Garcia, Team CVR, attacked from the gun. Was anyone else going to follow with him? Not initially. There was a group of 4 chasing him down. Nigel, Casey, Matti, and Ben. Then Tim, Allison choosing to stay with the pack. You can see the hair definitely looking like some sort of perfume ad going on in the Fulford household. as Nigel Doyle saying, "I'm coming for you, Frank. I'm coming for you. I got you." I think he ended up 4th on the race. And then Casey saying, "Move over to the right, Nigel. We got to get a draft. We got to go." Wasn't to be. Then Casey realizing, oops, this bike, unfortunately, has suffered a mechanical. Luckily, he was able to replace it and join back in for the last race on Dust Bowl Crit. Then you got Monty Bikelny going for a 700-meter long sprint to try and beat Frank at the very end. Before that, he used Quantum Shift to show Frank he wants to work with him, but he went from so long. Tim Fulford attacked away from the peloton, trying to do what he did in the earlier zone, but this time, everyone aware to his attack wasn't going to have any of it. And when Frank and Monty went toe-to-toe for the sprint, it was going to be Frank Garcia for the second time around who was going to take the top spot on Cityscape New York. Nigel feeling the hurt in that race, maybe just a tiny bit too long for him as he tried to push through. He did put pressure on Monty, but Frank with a celebration, that one seemed to have hurt a lot in the CVR camp. Last race of the evening was Dust Bowl Crit, 5 laps. There were a few crashes, but main storyline, the Kiwi does it again. Nigel Doyle coming into his own. Attacked early on with inertia, with power ups. Frank, 62 kilometers an hour. Absolutely unheard of. Monty Bikelny, now that we know that he was trying to pull a shenanigan on Frank, we feel a lot less bad for opting to break on Frank Garcia. So it does show that, like, being an enforcer, being a person that blocks other riders takes a lot of skill. It's not something you just do. As Nigel, despite his large lead, managed to crash in the last corner before the finish of one of the laps. Then Frank touched the wheels and went down as well. Casey saying, "Come on, Ben, you go. I'm doing none of this chasing." Frank's coming up from behind. Then they came to the hill and Casey attempted to bridge back the gap as Ben obviously not happy with that one. Last-ditch effort from Casey Shum to beat Nigel Doyle, but Nigel, fueled by the rugby, he wanted to do what the All Blacks couldn't do, and he, wearing the yellow kit, CCC, they will be proud of that stage win back in the team bus. The celebration you get from Nigel, you don't often see him visibly like celebrating on the screen, but there, look at that. Every emotion in his body, so happy with that one. But that is all she wrote for today's Racing Zone EKNL, live here in the CVR World Cup. Click that follow button down below. We're live on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. We've got more racing coming up. Next week is week 4 in the open session. Then we head into the bracketed session. After that, it is the grand finale week. It's going to be good. It's going to be fast. There's going to be more power-ups, equalized racing, emotion. But we're going to take a bit of a break now until Tuesday. So see you then. But no, Beth, yours goes crashing down. Determination, the suffering, the ability to... And she's unleashed everything in this attack. See just how much that win means to him. All the marvels. Kayla versus Allison, and to the line. Kayla Laguna takes the victory.